Hey folks, today we got 10 new updates for the COROS lineup of watches, including the Vertex, Vertex 2, Apex Pro, and the Pace 2. The original Apex as well as original Pace no longer have firmware space according to COROS, so no more firmware updates for them. There's also 3 updates though that are part of this that are on the app, so those are actually applicable for everyone, no matter what watches you have. Now there are 10 updates. We'll start right away with the very first one, which is their new structured workout support for indoor running and cycling. This means you can not only create a structured workout as well as accept one from Training Peaks and other platforms for cycling, but you can also do it for treadmill running. Next, there's the ability to record your RPE, which is your perceived effort, as well as training notes for structured workouts only. So if you do a structured workout, something that has, like a set number of intervals, whatever the case is, from the watch, it'll ask you afterwards a series of smiley faces. Those smiley faces basically align to how much suck there was for that workout. And then afterwards on the app, you can type in training notes. Now this will then show up in the COROS Training Hub. Now again, the one downside, only structured workouts. So last night I did this ride right here, an hour and a half or so, just off riding in the farmlands. I didn't get the smiley face game afterwards because it wasn't like a pre-planned structured workout. It was just an ad hoc one. Hopefully they change that down the road. That's something that Garmin and other watches do allow, so I'd like to see it here as well. Next up, there is the expanded sleep tracking, now showing your sleep phases and sleep stages. So you'll see this on the watch widgets right there. There's my sleep from last night. You also see in the app right there. You can tap on this and then it'll rotate this way, take a couple seconds, and show your sleep phases as well along the top right there. Now, as usual, sleep phases and sleep stages, I put approximately 0% stock in any of that stuff from any vendor. Garmin, Whoop, COROS, Polar, doesn't really matter, Aura, etc. Just as kind of an example of that, here is my last night compared between COROS, Garmin, Whoop, and Aura, all side by side. And at first, you're like, these look kind of close. Then you look at them like, no, they're not close at all. And I have no idea who is right, because to find out who is right, you basically have to go a fancy lab. Even like the Dream headband stuff is only 80% or so accurate. So again, it's kind of like a bit of a wash to figure out whether any of this stuff is accurate, but now you've got it. And hey, quick note, if you're finding this video interesting and useful, just whack that like button at the bottom there. It really helps this video and the channel quite a bit. Next up, adjusted pace for running. For those familiar from the Training Peaks standpoint, this is called the grade adjusted pace or gap. What it basically means is if you got like a hilly course, it'll figure out what your actual pace is if you're running on flat and level ground. Now here where I live in the Netherlands, in this part of the Netherlands anyways, it is a pancake. Like this table has more surface on it, more rolling surface than my nearby running routes do. So I can't really test this. Instead though, you can see this little screenshot right there from the app for a hilly route. And this shows you what your adjusted pace would be relative to flat ground. It's actually something I have found super useful when I used to live in a place that was more hilly, to be able to go ahead and kind of figure out how one run compared to the next run. So next we got the new watch status indicator. Don't get, this is like really super duper minor. See this little green dot right there? That's the status indicator. That means that the watches are connected, and if I go like this, it'll start syncing that data right there. You can see that, now it's syncing. If it goes red, it means they've had a fight and they're no longer disconnected. And if there's no green dot at all, it means they haven't started flirting yet and there's no connection either. So that's a new feature on the list. It's there though. At least now you can see what's going on at least. The next item segues right into that, which is to find my phone and find my watch. They allow you to take your watch. If I just hold this button right there for a second, go to find my phone, tap that. It'll make my phone crazy ass loud, and it'll basically tell me my phone is. I can find it as simple as that, right? Pretty straightforward. And the opposite is true on the watch side. And the opposite is true on the watch side as well. I can go into the settings, tap the watch name, click find device, and you can hear it'll vibrate and make beeps. And I mean, you can hear this pretty well. It's actually louder on the table vibrating than it is the beeps. Moving on to the app side of things for a second, there's some changes in the training calendar and how that appears on the platform. So now you'll see your planned workouts and then color coding for those workouts. And then you also see the completion rate for those structured workouts shown in the calendar. Again, with lots of color coding for both the type of the workout as well as the completion factor, how complete that workout was. Meanwhile, back on the watch, you can delete activities from the watch itself. Now, one thing to note here is that when you delete an activity from the watch, even if it's like your marathon, it will delete it from the COROS app and platform, which means that marathon didn't exist anymore. Even if you thought it did in your head, it's gone in real life. Now, of course, the real reason for this is that if you were to go ahead and just accidentally start an activity, maybe you started something and then someone called you a minute later, you just got to reset. You just want to start over again, you can get rid of that one 30-second activity. So that's an option. After that, we've got an option on the COROS Vertex 2 exclusively because it's the only watch that has Wi-Fi. So if you go ahead and long hold this button down here, you will see Wi-Fi Sync, and you can start that Wi-Fi Sync, and that'll go ahead and sync your data, including your activities, your planned workouts, all that kind of stuff. It won't do maps at this point in time, but COROS has previously talked about doing map downloads over Wi-Fi, so I suspect we'll see that hopefully sooner rather than later. And then last but not least, on the Vertex 2, and Apex Pro, in other words, the ones that have maps, they have decreased the required zoom level to see trails and roads. Previously, in order to see roads and trails, in other words, anything other than just the base map, you would have zoomed down to the 100 meter / 200 foot, I know those don't align, that's just the way it works, kind of zoom level. But now you can do it at a next highest zoom level, which is 200 meters and 500 feet is that particular kind of grouping right there. This is super handy again, so you don't have to zoom all the way so far down to see the things that you're probably trying to see. Anyways, that is a quick look at these updates. I think one of the things to keep in mind is that most of the updates that we see on this particular update cycle are more like catch-up items. And that's kind of going to be the reality for COROS and really most watchmakers for the most part in terms of their features and trying to keep up with the competition. Everything that we saw today is offered in some way, shape, or form on some of their competitors or all their competitors' devices. So things like the status indicator, whether or not your watch is connected or syncing, that's kind of like dial tone sort of stuff. But that's sort of where COROS is at this point. They've checked off a lot of the big ticket competitive items, and now they have to go after all these little like death by 1,000 cuts competitive items. And that won't always be super sexy. That's just gonna be like the way it is. But they're items that some people, for one person out there, that may be the most important thing. For example, the structured workouts on a bike. For me personally, from a watch, I don't care about that because I'm gonna use either a bike computer or I'm gonna use an app like Zwift or TrainerRoad to do those workouts. However, for some people, if they don't have a bike computer, that's a really big deal. Inversely, if COROS didn't have structured run workouts outdoors, that would be a showstopper for me. They of course do have that, and now this update also adds it to indoor treadmill, but treadmill again, for me personally, I'm probably just gonna like write it on a piece of notepad, as lame as that sounds from like the tech watch dude. That's usually what I do for treadmill workouts. So again, it's death by 1,000 cuts, trying to find the 1 or 2 items that matter to someone to be able to go ahead and move them over from a competitor to COROS. Anyways, hopefully you found this interesting or useful. If so, you know what to do, whack the like button, subscribe, all the stuff. Have a good one.